Hello everyone, welcome back in another video. Today, date is 4th of October 2022, and in our today's video, we are going to see subqueries in SQL. So in our previous video, we are discussed about the queries. Queries are the way to fetch the data from a database. There we are using a SQL as a database. So in the database, there is a data can be stored in the form of rows and columns. So we have to get the data as per our requirement and as per our conditional, which we are putting that condition in the form of selection or in the form of condition in our queries. So previously we are writers we see the simple queries. So simple query means suppose there is a one table which contain a data of a employees. So that table can contain an attribute of that employee ID, employee name, and employee address. So that time when we have to fetch the data some particular employee, that time we simply put that employee ID. So in that case, the attribute of employee ID is work as a unique key or it works as a primary key. That means there is a not any kind of repeatability or there is a only unique numbers are present in that employee ID key. So that is works as a primary key. We simply put that primary key for get the name and address of that particular employee. That time we can write a query like select employee select employee name, employee address from employee table where employee ID is equal to suppose 30. So we directly get the employee ID details of that employee which have a employee ID as a 30. We get the name and address of that employee. But sometimes there is a sometimes we have to paste the data from two different tables. Suppose there is one more table, that is the department table, and that department table can contain attributes of that department ID, department name, and one more attribute, that is the employee ID. So in that two tables, the employee ID can work similarly in that case, because we have to make a relation between that two tables, so that relation can created by the same attributes. So in first table, in employee table, employee ID is work as a primary key, but in our department table, that same employee ID attribute can work as a foreign key. So by the help with the help of that primary key and foreign key, we create a relation between that two tables. Suppose we have to find out the department ID for the particular employee, that which we have employee ID, we have to find out that employee ID from the employee from the employee table, and then we have to find out the department ID for that particular employee. That's that time we have to write a subquery. So subquery is nothing but it is the we are writing the query into the query. That means we are write one more query within the query. Suppose we have to find the department of ID and name and address of that employee. That time we write a query like select employee name, address, and department ID from sorry, we can write as select employee name, employee ID, department ID from employee table. So in that scenario, in our employee table, it only consists the name and address of that employee. So for fetch the data from another table, that time we have to write one more query within that query. That time we using a parenthesis. We can write again query within that parenthesis. That time we can write one more query as select department from department table where employee ID is 30. That means there are we are writing the both queries within a one query. So the rule for creating a sub query, that is when we are write select statement more than two or more than two times, that query we can call as a sub query, and sub query can be always written within the parenthesis. We can achieve the same result by using a joins, but there is some parameter or some cases are there, that time we have to only use a subquery. That time we are not able to use a joint. That is the main purpose of using a subqueries. Within a subquery, we are writing the subquery within that parenthesis. Suppose in our example, we are writing within subquery within that parenthesis. We can write as a select employee department select department ID from department table where employee ID is 30. That time that query which is written within that parenthesis, that query get executed first, and that result can convey into our main query. That means that main query get the data of output, use that output which is generated by that subquery. That means the subquery can perform its operation first, and then main query can use that result of subquery and perform their operations. So that is the function of a subquery. So there are different types of subqueries are like a single row subquery, multi-row subquery. Then the next type is a sub-pair subquery, subquery in the form of in a form clone, subquery in where clone, subquery in a selection clone. So there are different types of subqueries. Let me see some examples. In a single row query, as we discussed in our example, the query is completely written within that one row. That time it gives us output in a one single row. That means we are asking for the particular employee name, employee address, and their employee department ID. That data can get in a one row by using a single row query. When we have to fetch the data of multiple rows, that time we using a multiple row query. That time we are simply write that query by using a in operator. We can write that before that parenthesis of query, we can write the key as a in. That is a in is a operator. By using that in, we are giving some different parameters by using the comma between that different parameters, which we have to find out within that another table. And by that we get the output in a multiple rows in our database, which we are stored in different tables. So that is the application of multi-row. Same kind of there is a operation regards the where clauses, from clauses, and selection clauses. We can see all the clauses, different type of uses of that subqueries in another video. So that is the basic, and that is the introduction about the subqueries and the function of subqueries in our video. Thank you.